Hey guys, welcome. My name is Marina. I'm the founder of Creatively, and I'm joined here by my husband, Alex.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing?
Welcome, everyone. Please say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Let us know what you're drinking tonight. Let us know if you're a first-time painter. We're going to give it about 10 minutes or so for everyone to set up. And in the meantime, I'm going to go through my setup. And I think I forgot to mention that tonight we are painting One Love,
Woo woo.
which is a beautiful peace wreath, perfect for the spring and summer.
Absolutely.
Alex, you ready?
Absolutely. We've got all the things pinned.
We do? Okay.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
Let's see. So let's go through what we have.
Let's go through it.
Let's do it. So we have our 12 by 12 canvas.
Check.
We have our palette paper facing shiny side up.
Check.
We also have 5 colors of paint tonight.
5. Here we
5. There's a little plot twist happening. I'll tell you in a second.
Love it.
So we have white, blue. So this is actually cobalt blue. We have chrome yellow, deep yellow, and brown. And if you guys ordered the Creatively box, I actually did include red in there, but we won't be using it for this tutorial. But I always encourage everyone to go rogue at any point and do your own thing. So if you want to use red in your painting, you're more than welcome to. And then we also have 2 brushes. So we have a large brush and a small brush.
Check.
Thank you. We also have a paper towel.
Check.
We have a cup with water.
Clearly labeled.
Clearly labeled paint water.
Very important. Check.
We also have our step-by-step instructions and sample piece.
Check and check.
So this is actually available for you guys on the website. I think Alex included the link somewhere in this chat.
We did. We pinned it from Creatively.
So this is super useful if you want to follow along to this video tutorial, but also if you're a step behind or a step ahead, you could also use this step-by-step instruction sheet, and then you always have the sample piece to kind of know what you're painting. And then I also have a super simple, but kind of tricky design outline. So this is a simple peace sign, and I made this on purpose. I did not want to include any flowers on here because I want you guys to be as creative as possible with this wreath. But for me, at least, the circle is pretty hard to draw. So this is why I included it. I'm going to be using it tonight. It's hard for me to draw a perfect circle. So you guys are more than welcome to use it as well. You could also try to cut it out of the paper and just trace around it to get the perfect circle, or you could use a plate or whatever else that's gonna help you create a perfect circle. And then we also have graphite paper for the tracing.
Graphite paper. Check.
Thank you. And then last but not least, we have our adult beverage. And tonight we're actually staying in theme, or at least I am. So this is a...
Feel called out.
This is a pretty simple vodka soda and lime, but I am using a Ukrainian vodka this time. And I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. If anyone can tell me how to pronounce it, that'll be great. But yeah, we are going hard on a Tuesday tonight.
I love it.
With some Ukrainian vodka.
You know, showing the love.
Alex, anything interesting on your end?
I'm keeping it nice and smooth and clean. A little blue label action.
Okay, you fancy.
You know, little thumb, pinky out. That's all.
Okay, guys, so if you're just joining, welcome. Welcome, Jana, or welcome, Darlene. Tammy, do we have anyone
New
internationally?
painters, new with us, first time painters.
You're just asking too many questions. You can't even keep
I'm
up.
allowing all the questions to be thrown out. The responses. Loving it.
Okay, I'm seeing Jackie's new with us. Welcome, Jackie. Is anyone outside of the US? We usually get a small international crew.
Filtering in. Also, please share the not water cup beverage.
Yes. So we're going to give it a couple more minutes. And guys, I did want to mention that we're bringing you guys together tonight to share the simple message of peace. So this is the original painting, peace, love, hope. And if you guys don't know this, we actually donated 15% of each sale of the One Love box to Save the Children Ukraine Crisis Relief. So we've raised over $850 so far, which is amazing. And I want to thank you guys so much. But we're also hoping to raise more money for this incredible charity tonight. So Alex did pin the link, which you could use to make a donation directly to the charity. And we'll talk more about it throughout the night, but I just wanted to share that with you guys at the very beginning.
I love it. And we can reshare the link if needed. But I'm pretty sure we were able to pin it.
Thank you, Alex. Oh, and should I show the easel? Because I always forget, and you actually did not remind me this time.
Well.
Hard call out.
A, you can. B, yes.
Okay. So if you guys ordered the Creatively box online, so this is what you get, and this is what the 15% of the sales went to this charity. So this is straight off my website. You get this pretty little box, and you could actually fold it into an easel. So you just fold the lid back, and then you put a piece of tape on either side. So I'm gonna try to find the camera here. So you put a piece here, and then on the other side here, and it stands up like an easel. And you could even tape it to your table if you want to, but not necessary. So it just helps you see your painting from afar. Alex is giving me the look.
Is that what an easel does?
Yeah, it helps you see the painting from a distance.
So you can like step away from it?
Exactly.
Interesting. I like it.
Okay, I see Tessa made a donation directly to the charity. Thank you so much, Tessa. Really appreciate it. And we actually have a few surprises for tonight, which I sort of revealed in the event, but we'll tell you a little bit more about it later. We've got Brooklyn in the house. So Alex and I are streaming from Queens, New York.
Representing in the house.
All right, you guys ready to start?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the traceable first. Or you wanna do the pledge first?
Ideally.
Okay, let's do it then. All right, guys, so we are gonna start with the Creatively pledge. So I'm gonna ask you to please raise your brush in your hand and repeat after me.
I'm ready.
I promise.
I promise.
To have fun and relax.
To have fun and relax.
To not judge my painting.
To not judge my painting.
Or the painting of others.
Or the painting of others.
And to be fearless.
And to be fearless.
Oh.
Boom.
Cheers. We're ready to get started. Okay, so this is totally optional for you guys to use. It does help you maintain that perfect circle shape. And I'm just gonna mention to you guys, this is super important and it kind of looks deceiving on the sample piece. You want your circle to be around 2 inches or so in on each side. So just make sure you don't make it too big on the canvas, just because you're not gonna have space for the flowers then. So about 2 inches or so on either side. You could also use the traceable to create it if that's helpful. The link is pinned in this chat. So I'm gonna use this graphite paper and I'm gonna put the circle over it, sort of in the middle. And I don't know why circles are really tough for me.
Circles
I
can
don't
be
know, Alex, if
intimidating.
you have this problem, but I do.
I think I more just accept that I can't necessarily draw
Are you breaking the pledge?
a perfect circle, but then I also understand that no circle should actually just be perfect. So then I'm like, okay, I can do this. It's more just, walking yourself off the ledge.
So I'm just tracing the circle, and then I could get the inner lines of the peace sign, but also you guys are welcome to add it after you do the background as well. Let's see it. All right. Okay, looking pretty good. I think it's sort of centered. So when you paint the background, you should still be able to see it, I hope. But if for whatever reason you cover it up with the paint, maybe your paint is too thick, you could also just cut out the circle. And once your paint has dried, you could just outline it on your canvas. So either way, this helps you get that perfect circle. I'm gonna start with my large brush and I'm gonna create a light blue color. So I'm just gonna mix a lot of white and a little bit of blue. And I don't know if you guys can see what I'm mixing. And before I start painting this color, I do want to mention to you guys, I'm probably going to say this several times throughout the evening, but I want to remind you that this is your painting. So just because I'm using a light blue color doesn't necessarily mean that you should be using it too. So if you want to make your sky a pink color or purple or whatever other color you want, you're more than welcome to do that. And your painting is going to look different than mine, but it's going to look just as amazing.
Let those creative juices run wild, as one might say.
So I am starting from the middle of my canvas and I'm just going outward in these circular strokes. Because I want the background to also flow with this circle shape. So if you actually look at the sample piece, you see that all of the strokes are kind of going around the wreath. So I'm just following along as well. And you want to create a pretty thin layer because you want it to dry rather quickly, but also you want to make sure that your canvas is pretty covered so you don't want to see any white through it. And I'm using a little bit of the water just to help me blend the paint. So I'm just coloring the circle first and then I'm going to go around it. And it's kind of messy. Did anyone mention any interesting drinks? Because I don't think I saw anything. I can't be the only one.
You silenced
With a
me.
Ukrainian vodka.
You silenced me when I was trying to ask all my questions, so, you know. Everyone's just terrified to answer now.
So I can still see the lines through the paint for now, at least. And I'm just going around. And if you guys have an extra 10 seconds or so while you're painting, please feel free to give us a like on this feed and also follow us on Facebook if you're not already following us. And Instagram and YouTube. Much appreciated.
Jana with the great question.
Well, Jana, I could still see the outline on mine. I don't know about you. And you could play around with the shade of this blue. You could make it slightly darker, slightly lighter, but just keep in mind that some of your flowers are going to be white. So you want the white to stand out against the background. So you don't want to make it too light.
This is a very nice, peaceful blue, I will admit.
It's very different from the phthalo blue that we usually use. It's like a brighter type of blue. I'm going around the circle, so all of my strokes are following the shape of the wreath, and they're all kind of circular.
All of your brush strokes were in a
circle. In a
circular
circular direction, so I'm just following the outline that I made.
Very interesting.
And I'm getting a little bit darker around the edges just to create this, what's the word for it?
So like the spiral effect?
Not a spiral. I'm blanking out on the word. It's probably gonna pop into my head.
Give me a hint.
But it's gonna be darker around the edges and then lighter in the middle.
Fading?
No.
Blending.
No.
First letter.
If I knew it, I wouldn't be asking you. Ooh, ombre and shadow. Those are not gradient. Oh, man. It's not those three. Can't think of it. But thank you for the assist.
Are you sure it wasn't blending?
Well, blending could be any colors, right? But this is specifically dark around the edges and then lighter in the middle. And this is like a photography term. Ah, man.
Should we review some fun facts?
Ooh, already?
You know.
Let's do it.
We can throw out one.
I'll take it.
Ooh, this one's very on with the name of your lovely painting.
Okay.
Did you know that the very famous Tunnel of Love is located in Ukraine and has been noted as one of the most romantic places on earth?
Probably a lot of marriage proposals there.
I can't tell if you were just trying to ruin the moment. Just completely ruining the moment.
I feel like we need a visual of this place.
It actually looks really beautiful.
Cool,
it's
right?
like an abandoned railway outdoors with green arches and completely in greenery. Very
Cool.
picturesque.
Very cool. The way that I'm getting this gradient is using a little bit of water to blend the lighter blues together with the darker blues. So I could go back in here, I could add more variations of this blue, and then I'm using water to blend the two together so that it becomes pretty smooth. But don't worry so much about this blending because most of this painting is going to be covered by flowers, so you're probably not even going to see the background that much. But you do want the edges to be slightly darker.
And it's not fading, huh?
It's not.
Maybe you just...
I'm gonna look this up after this live and then I'll get back to you guys. I'm gonna comment in the chat and be like, this is what I was thinking of.
It's okay. It'll come to us. It'll come to us.
While we're painting this background, I do want to tell you guys something super exciting, and I already announced it in the event. But so this original painting, so this is the one that I did. It's signed by me. I'm gonna be auctioning this one off, and 100% of the money is gonna go towards Save the Children Ukraine crisis relief. So this is really a way to continue raising more and more money for this organization that is just doing really amazing things to help children that are caught in this crossfire of war. This organization is helping provide them with shelter, with food, with monetary relief, also with emotional support. So they're just doing really amazing things. And if you decide to donate directly to this charity, I will send you this painting as a little token. But so the bid is going to start with $150. So we're going to be doing sort of like a silent auction. So if you want to place a bid, and just remember, like if you bid $200, those $200 are going to go directly towards the charity. And it just so happens that you'll receive this painting as well. So pretty awesome. So if you want to place a bid, you could DM us. So just send creatively a message on Facebook with your bid amount, and then we'll get back to you if you're the winning bid. So we already had a few, and we're actually up to 160 right now. So super exciting stuff.
Okay, here we go. Love it. Good cause too.
First silent auction.
I can dig it.
And this is a great, gift if you want to give it to a loved one, a family member, just something to think about. We want to let this paint dry a little bit before the next step. So in the meantime, this is totally optional, but I like to do this. You could paint the sides of your canvas. So I would recommend for you to paint it the same color as your background, so it just continues. So this is actually what I did with the original painting. So you could see all the sides are with this light blue. But also, you could paint it black, so it looks like there's a frame around it, or any color of your choice, really. So it's totally up to you. Okay, so you could also take your painting and kind of just wave it around a bit and let it dry.
So maybe this is just a problem for me.
Uh-oh.
But how do you keep your hands clean when you're painting the sides? Like I always get my finger.
Why would you want to keep them clean? I don't understand the question. If your hands are totally clean, that means that you haven't been putting everything into it. It's kind of like skiing, and if you don't fall for the entire day, that means you're not pushing yourself hard enough.
It's a false statement. We both know that.
Is the truth. You could also use a hair dryer. Very good suggestion. I've actually never used that, but I heard it works. Yes. So I am going to move along, and this is the step that might make a few of you nervous, but we're all gonna take just a deep breath and we're just gonna go for it and we're gonna be fearless. So we're gonna do a large circle on your canvas, and I could actually see the lines that I created. If you look very closely, you could still see the pencil marks. And I'm just gonna trace over that with white, just so I know where my wreath is gonna be. So this is more just a guideline for you to know where you're gonna place your flowers, but don't worry, we're gonna cover up the white completely in the end, so you're not gonna be able to see it. And if you guys are hand drawing this, just remember to leave maybe 2 inches of space on either side, just so you have space for the flowers. I wish I had like a protractor tool. Just whoop. As you could see, my lines are not perfect at all, and sometimes I'm just fixing it and going over it and changing up the line, which is totally fine because you're gonna be covering it up anyway. So it's more for you. Okay, we did it. And then I'm gonna do a line in the middle. And for this line, feel free to use a ruler or a sharp edge if you want to. That also helps you make that straight line. I'm just gonna go for it.
Just dive right in, right?
Exactly.
Fearless. Boom. We're doing it.
A little wavy here and there. And then I'm gonna make the 2 sidelines for my peace sign. We did it. If you want, you could just leave this as is because it already makes a beautiful painting. But we are gonna add some flowers to it. Alex, you ready?
As they say, born ready, coach.
Okay, slightly delayed there, but I'll take it.
Was having a brief technical error. Had to recover.
So for this wreath, we are going to be doing majority sunflowers because sunflowers are the national flower of Ukraine. They're also, this is something I learned recently, but they're the biggest exporter of sunflower seeds in the world, I think. I may have just made that up, but I think it's true. I should have said that with more confidence.
The largest producer.
The largest producer of sunflower seeds.
Sunflower seed producer. You know what?
Yeah.
Big facts.
Okay.
Hashtag big facts.
I prepared this time before this event. Okay, so we are going to be doing majority sunflowers, but if you're not a fan of sunflowers or you want to use different colors on your wreath, you're more than welcome to do so. So you're definitely welcome to mix up the paint and use whatever colors you want. This is more of the yellow and blue for the Ukrainian flag. But feel free to change it up because this is your painting. So I am going to start with my sunflowers, and I'm going to mix yellow and white together. And the reason that I do that is because if you just use yellow for your petals on top of the blue, it's actually going to look almost green because the yellow is very thin and translucent. But if you add more white to it, it's going to appear thicker and it's going to cover up the background. So this way, we're going to be able to cover up the background. And we still might need to do several layers of this yellow, which is okay. And with sunflowers, they usually have several layers of petals anyway. So this way it'll look a little bit more realistic. So I am going to start right smack in the center of my peace sign with my first flower. And I'm going to first start with the center just to know where the petals are going to be coming from. So I'm just going to draw a circle in the middle. And just remember, you could always change up the size of the center later on. You could make it bigger later on in the process. So I'm going to start filling in the petals. And the petals are really easy shapes. So they start off being wide at the base and then get thinner as you go outward. So I'm going to do my first one. So it kind of has a sharp edge. And I'm just going to go around this flower. And they're not all perfect. They're kind of just moving around a little bit and going in slightly different directions. But I'm just going to block this in, and this is going to be my first layer. And I want you guys to be totally free to do whatever you want in terms of the flowers. So you don't have to place them in the exact same spots that I'm doing it. But the only thing to keep in mind is you want to keep your wreath pretty balanced. So if you add something on one side, you want to balance it out on the other side. And it doesn't need to be too symmetrical. So you could have 3 small flowers on this side and then 1 bigger one on the other side, and that'll balance it out. Does that make sense? But that way your colors will be balanced out as well. So when you look at this painting as a whole, it'll feel very balanced. I feel like I said the word balanced too many times in one sentence.
Can you say balanced one more time? Just one more time.
I'm just going around this flower, and feel free to use pretty thick brush strokes. Give your wreath some texture. So I'm gonna lay out most of my sunflowers in the first step because I kind of want to know where they're gonna be. So I'm just gonna place them around this wreath. So just remember, you don't have to place them in the same exact positions as I am. And I'm gonna make sure that my wreath is balanced by placing one at the top and then balancing it out on the bottom as well. So I'm just gonna start on the top here. And for this one, maybe I want my center to be kind of an oval instead of a perfect circle. So that way it looks like the flower is a bit not straight head on. So this way you could do a kind of horizontal oval. And then if you're looking at the flower not head on, but it's kind of turned a little bit, then your petals in the front are going to be larger and the ones in the back are going to be shorter. Does that make sense?
Let's go
Alex
with the yes.
is looking at me weird.
Let's go with the yes.
Okay, so, and I'll show you guys because we're going to do a lot of these. So this is a lot of time to practice.
Practice makes perfect.
There's no such thing as perfect.
Hey now.
So we have these petals here on the bottom, but the ones on the other side are going to be shorter. So this way it looks like the flower is not facing perfectly straight at you. And I'm going to add another one at the bottom, and I'm going to make it slightly different size. So also I'm just doing a circular shape in the middle just to know where it's going to be. And then I'm going to add the petals around it. So at the base, they're going to be a bit thicker, and then they're just going to get narrower and sharper as you go out. And the key with this specific painting is actually the more flowers that you keep on adding, the better it's going to look in the end. So probably till the very last step, it's probably not going to look as great, but you just have to be patient with it and just keep on adding more and more flowers. And then at the end, it's all going to come together. I feel like I do say that a lot, but with this one,
bit, and then you just
with this one specifically, it's so true. So I'm continuing to use the white and the yellow just because I wanted to cover up the blue color in the background. So maybe I'll add 2 more over here where kind of these diagonals of the peace sign are. And they're going to be a bit smaller. And also feel free to overlap them a little bit. And then maybe a smaller one here.
It's cool watching all of these sunflowers just, start to decorate and then on the wreath. Quite lovely.
Perfect for the springtime. And then I want to balance this out by adding maybe 2 to 3 flowers on the other side. So if you're doing 2 on one, 3 on the other, just maybe the ones that are in the cluster of 3 are going to be a little bit smaller. And again, I'm starting out with the circles in the middle and then adding the petals around it. And for those of you who are painting with acrylics for the very first time, I just want to let you know that if you make a mistake, you could always cover it up with paint. So for example, if I don't like these flowers, I could just remove them by covering it up with a light blue background after they're dried, which takes like 3 minutes. So there's really no such thing as making mistakes because you could always just cover it up. So just a reminder to yourself to take risks as you're painting. Just put different colors down on your canvas, see what happens, because the worst thing that could happen is that you cover it up with a different color afterwards. It's very forgiving. So I'm gonna add a few more at the top of this wreath. And I want to vary up the shape of the circle in the middle. So some of them, it's going to be more of a horizontal oval. Some of the other ones, it might be more of a vertical oval. So they're all, so it looks like they're all facing slightly different directions. And just keep in mind, if you want to give it some depth, then you want to have the petals that are facing you, that are closer to you, longer, and then the ones that are in the back of the oval shorter. And once you cover up the center, this flower is really going to come together. So right now it's just the base color of the petals that we're adding. And I'm not even using water for this step just because I want this paint to be pretty thick and I want it to cover up the blue background. I'm going to do this on the other side. I'm going to add 2 more here, but feel free to add maybe 3, maybe even 4. And these are going to be slightly smaller.
Did you know? Or what
I was waiting for the next
What do you
one.
think? Let's flip it. Let's flip it.
Okay.
So we previously know, per your lovely fact, that Ukraine is the largest sunflower seed producer. What is it also one of the largest producers of?
Is a marriage
in
proposals?
the world. Well, come on now. First of all, we both know that probably Paris would take the cake on that one. If we're going stereotypical. It feeds along with its nickname, the breadbasket of Europe.
Oh, well, you now gave it away.
Well, what is it then?
Are you asking me or are you asking?
Maybe.
Is it wheat?
Maybe.
Well, that
Good
was
job.
too easy now.
Well, you know. I don't think the whole point is to stump everybody.
But I did not know that they were the biggest producer of wheat in the world. One of. So I am going to move on right now while this first layer is drying. I'm going to move on to my white flowers. So these ones, if anyone could tell me the name of these types of flowers, because I have no idea. I think I was just using my imagination, but I'm sure that there is a name for these flowers. Alex and I did not take a botany class before this, unfortunately.
Most
so I
flowers
could
have
only
names.
identify the sunflowers.
Most flowers do have names.
Yes, thank you. So these ones are gonna have 5 sides, so they almost look like starfish. And they're also gonna be wider at the base and then get thinner. Magnolia, okay, that sounds correct. I'll take it. Okay, there seems to be a dispute. I don't know how to pronounce this, Alex. Oh,
I was
man.
on mute, but Oedipus?
Oedipus?
What?
Bellflowers. Okay. So we're just gonna take white. And so these ones are gonna be smaller than the sunflowers. The sunflowers are the biggest ones. And we're just gonna add some of these. So I'm gonna start with the bottom here. So this straight line, I'm gonna add one of them here. So also you could mark the center just as a dot for now. And then I'm gonna go out. So this is like a starfish where it has 5 sides. Or like a star. Okay, but how do we know the right answer here? We have like 4 different guesses. How do we know? And it's also not going to be a perfect star. It's going to be a little bit wavy and crooked. So I'm just going to continue adding these. So maybe there's one over here. And if it's easier for you, you could actually draw just a star shape first and then make the petals fuller. And you want to make sure that these are all slightly different sizes, especially the ones that are kind of closer together. You want them to appear kind of different. And I'm using pretty thick paints for this just because I want to cover up the blue. So maybe I'll do another one right next to here. So feel free to use the reference to see where I place my flowers, but also feel free to go rogue at any point and place yours just in random places as long as you're balancing them out. I say balance one more time.
It'll turn into a drinking game.
Maybe every time I say balance, I need to donate $10 to the charity. Edelweiss. Were you?
I was corrected by pronunciation. Edelweiss.
I'm gonna look this up afterwards. I need to know more about this flower. We're just continuing placing these Edelweiss flowers around. And there could be tiny ones, so it's just a few strokes of your paintbrush and it already looks like a little flower. And you could just add a bunch of them around. So it's just maybe like 5 strokes of your brush. And I just want to point out to you guys, I'm going to hold this up, but not all of my flowers are directly on this line. So some of the little ones are kind of off to the side, and that way it just makes it look a bit fuller. So you could place 2 or 3 of them together and they're just a little bit off the circle. And the same thing for these lines over here. You could also place some of them a little bit off the circle. And really just have fun with these and play around with where you want to place them and play around with the shapes. They don't have to be these starfish shapes like I'm doing. They could be totally different.
Starfish are fun.
Oh, so it did sound very German or Austrian. So that makes sense. And maybe you could even add little white dots some places. Oh, this is crooked. So I am gonna move on to my blue flower and I'm gonna pretty much do the same shape. So I'm just gonna wash my brush and I don't know if Edelweiss is just white or does it come in different colors because I'm about to use blue. So it's just gonna happen.
And this is where, creative spirits run wild.
Yeah. So I'm gonna use blue just because I'm keeping it in the theme of the Ukrainian flag, but feel free to use other colors for your wreath. So I think pinks and purples could be nice as well, and little orange flowers also. So I'm not mixing it yet. I'm gonna see how dark this comes out. I might need to add a little bit of white to it, but I'll see. So I'm also doing this starfish shape. And I'm gonna add a few more to the lines over here. Don't forget the lines of the peace sign. You wanna make sure that you're adding flowers to it, but also they're kind of small, so that way the shape of these lines is still pretty well defined. And the same thing for this top line here. You're gonna have flowers here, but they're gonna be a little bit smaller and closer together, just so it still looks like the 3 lines of a peace sign. And I wanna know if anyone is doing roses or peonies or anything else that looks totally different from these, because that would be pretty stunning as well. And they could still be the same colors, so you could still have yellow flowers and blue flowers, but they could just be roses or peonies.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
That would be really interesting.
That'd be difficult to draw.
Why?
I don't know. For some reason, I imagine
We did peonies together.
would be a little bit more difficult. But maybe, you know, it's just me hyping it up in my own head.
So right now, it still doesn't look like it's coming together yet. Now it looks like there's just a bunch of starfish on this canvas, but I promise you guys, it's all gonna come together very soon. And you could mix the blue with white just to get a lighter variation of this blue flower. So maybe I'll add a few more. And you just want to make sure that it's darker than your background so you could actually see it. You could even add just little circles here and there, and those could also be flowers. So I actually have them in the original piece. So if you notice, and we're gonna add these later on, so it doesn't need to be in this step, but I'm gonna show you guys, there's a few little circles of just these colored dots. And then once you add a point in the middle, it automatically looks like a flower. So kind of cool, super easy. And you could definitely just play around with those shapes. So I think I'm gonna go back to my sunflowers now because they still need a lot of work. So I'm gonna wash my brush. And I'm gonna add more and more of the other flowers later on, but for now I'm gonna move on to my sunflowers. So I wanna make sure my brush is pretty clean. And I'm actually gonna use this deep yellow here to create some variation in the petals. So first I'm gonna take a sip of my drink. Okay, now I'm ready.
Very important.
Very important. Because I was a little fearful at first, but now I'm a little more fearless. So let's do this. So I'm gonna add some, I guess, shadows in the petals. So it's gonna be kind of in between these petals here. And I'm also gonna mix a little bit of white into this color just because I wanted to cover up the blue. Because if you just use the deep yellow, it's gonna be very translucent and it's gonna look almost like green. So I'm adding some petals in between here. And it's gonna look a bit messy at first, but once we do the top layer of the petals, most of these darker petals are gonna be covered up and they're only gonna be seen kind of in the back. So kind of the same technique, you're making it wider at the base and then making it thinner as you come out. I'm actually gonna do this on the main flower right now just to show you guys. So I'm gonna put some of these darker orangey petals in between. And it looks super messy right now, so I'm just adding these darker orangey yellow petals kind of in between the yellow. They don't need to be in between each one, but you want it to be pretty full. So I'm gonna do the same thing for my other sunflowers. And while this layer dries, once it dries, I could add more of the yellow petals on top of it and cover up some of this orangey yellow. So it's looking a bit crazy right now. But with paintings, sometimes you have to be super patient because it takes several layers for it to look like the way you want it to look.
Oh, hey, what do you think?
Oh, is this another trivia
Well,
question?
we'll see. Could be obvious, could be not. What's the largest country in Europe? Jeopardy sound.
Let's ask the audience.
This isn't Millionaire. Yeah, I don't know if you get lifelines like that.
Can I poll the audience?
50-50? Got a friend? Friend to phone? Ricky, winner, winner, chicken dinner. Very nice. That is correct.
Did that really just happen?
She got the right answer. I don't understand.
Ricky! You got, I was making fun of your winner, winner, chicken dinner.
You don't know that? Wow. Wow. Wow.
So that is actually correct. So although I actually got this one wrong before because I thought it was Russia, but since Russia is divided between Europe and Asia, that actually makes Ukraine the biggest country in Europe, not Russia. So good to know, good to know. And guys, just in case you missed this at the beginning, we are donating 15% of every sale of the One Love box. So everything that you see here, from the canvas, the step-by-step instructions, the sample piece, the paint, all of this that comes in this Creatively box, we are donating 15% of that to Save the Children Ukraine Crisis Relief.
Say what?
So the more of these boxes that are purchased, the more we get to donate. But also, I do encourage you guys to make a donation directly to the charity as well. That way, 100% of your donation goes straight to that charity. And we really appreciate your help, guys. I don't know if you knew this, but Alex and I both have family from Ukraine. My dad and my grandparents actually grew up in Ukraine. So this has been just a really heartbreaking few months already. So we just want to help as much as possible, and this is kind of our way to give back through art and creativity. So I'm just continuing to add these orangey yellow petals in between my yellow ones, and it's looking pretty messy right now. So if yours is looking messy, you're probably doing the right thing. So while this layer is drying, I'm gonna go back into the white flowers and I'm gonna add the center to them. So personally, I'm gonna make the center a light blue color, but you're free to make it a light yellow, a red. So just choose the color that you wanna do. I'm gonna do a light blue, so I'm gonna take some white and some blue. And I'm just gonna go right here in the center and kind of do these small strokes outward. So it's a bit hard to see, but afterwards I'm gonna add a smaller, darker blue dot in the center, and that way that flower is really gonna come together. So I'm just adding these small little strokes in the middle of these flowers. And it doesn't need to be in all of them, but The center part really makes them come alive a little bit.
I agree. It's like the finishing touch.
Not yet.
Well, on
but
those
almost.
little bits, you know? Oof. Tough crowd.
So then with these flowers, I could now take this brush into the dark blue and then create just a little center point. And you could use pretty thick paint for this. So I don't know if you guys can see, I'm gonna hold it up, but so this is a tiny little point in the center of this. And you could also play around a little bit with the shadows of these flowers. So if you want, you could add more of the white to these petals to kind of define them even more. Or you could add a little light blue to some of them to define the petals a little bit. So I'm actually going to go over them with white a little bit just to define them a little bit more. So it doesn't need to be for all of these, but for some of them just to make them a little bit brighter. And you could use pretty thick paint for this. And you could also just sprinkle in a few more flowers here and there as well. So you could do little dots in certain places, or smaller white flowers. Just to continue to keep making this wreath fuller and fuller. So for the blue flowers, you're kind of going to do the same thing, but the opposite. So you're going to do a lighter blue in the center of them. You feel me? So it's actually, it's not the opposite as what we just did. It's the exact same thing. So we're doing a light blue in the middle of these, and then it's gonna be either a white dot or you could do a dark blue dot. So just as long as it stands out, it's gonna look really nice. I'm just doing a really messy dot kind of in the middle of these, so it's not even defined lines. It's just like a messy little circle in the middle. And then you could go into it with a white dot. So I'm just gonna wipe this off, and I could go straight into my white, and I'm just picking up a lot of paint and then going right in here with a light dot in the center. So show you what that kind of looks like. And you could sprinkle in more of the blue flowers in certain places as well. So the more flowers that you add to your wreath, the fuller it's gonna be, and in my opinion, more and more beautiful. Who doesn't love more and more flowers?
Everyone loves more and more flowers.
Do you? Okay. Okay. So we are gonna do another layer of yellow petals on the sunflowers, and this is really gonna make them come together a bit. So I'm gonna take probably just yellow. I'm gonna see how it looks. It might be too translucent, so I might need to use the white still, but I'm just gonna cover up some of these dark yellow petals. So basically I'm just doing the very first step that we did with the original yellow petals, and I'm just kind of just going over them. So this is covering it up pretty well. So I'm just using thick yellow paint right now, and I'm just going over these original yellow petals. So I'm covering up some of these orange ones. So it takes a bit of layers, and actually the more you add, the better it's gonna look. So you could just keep playing with it after we're done with this tutorial, and just keep adding more and more of these petals to create more texture and more layers. So I pretty much covered up a lot of the orange, and you could kind of see it just in the back of the flower. And then I'm gonna go into the center here. So I'm gonna show you guys how to complete one of your sunflowers, and then we'll go through the other ones and kind of add those two steps. So I'm gonna wash my brush. And I am gonna go in here with the brown. And I'm also using pretty thick paint for this, and I'm just covering the center of it. And here's where you could actually change the shape of the center. So if you want it to be more of an oval shape, or if you want it to be bigger, you could always change it in this step. So I'm taking this brown, and while my paint is still wet, I could take this brown into the yellow. Just a little bit. So it's looking very stark. So I could combine it with the yellow and make it a bit lighter. And go into some of these petals to give them some definition. So I'm just branching out this brown from the center into these petals. So this is looking more and more defined, and then I could take just a blob of brown and go over the center and kind of define it a bit more. So we're going to be doing this several times, so you could get to practice a little bit. So this is looking more and more like a sunflower.
Is it
in my eyes.
crazy to ask if anyone has done different colors?
It's not crazy. I would love to know. And we always ask you guys to share what you created afterwards. So, so, so we ask you guys to share what you created on social, so either on Instagram or Facebook, and you could tag us or use hashtag creativelybox, and that way we'll see it and we'll share with our followers. And also you get big bonus points if you include yourself in the shot along with your creation. So we really love to see you and your creation as well. And you might get lucky and we'll share it to our social media. So I'm going to give you guys a bonus step. And this is really a cool little detail that really makes the sunflower come together. So I'm going to add a little bit more definition into the center here using blue. And as you could see, we're not using black in our colors for this painting at all, but you could actually put some blue into this center and it's almost going to look like a shadow. So I'm just doing dots here on the side. And it's going to add some shadow, so you could see that it looks darker automatically, but when you look closely, it's just some blue dots inside of the center, and that really gives it some more definition and more depth. So I'm going to go through some of these other sunflowers, and I'm going to add more of these yellow petals. So I'm just picking up a lot of yellow, and feel free to mix yours up and add more of this darker yellow as well to your petals if you want. So I'm just going through this and adding back those original yellow petals. So basically just like a second layer of them. And so I'm going to be covering up some of this orange. And then while the paint is still wet, so you want to do this in the next step. So before moving on to the other colors, I want to add the center and then spread out the brownish shadows while this yellow is still wet, just so it kind of blends a little bit better. So I'm going to wash my brush, and this brown circle is going to be very stretched out horizontally. And that's going to give it a little bit more depth as well. So it's almost going to be like an eye shape.
The all-seeing sunflower.
Yes. So I did the center, and now I'm just going to mix the yellow with the brown, or if I have it pre-mixed already, I could just use that. And then I'm just going to go in here and spread out some of this brown onto the petals. And it's going to be mixing right into the yellow, which is good because it's going to look a bit more subtle. And then you could go back in here and add more of the center. And then you could take your blue, and I'm not even going to wash my brush. I'm just going to take this blue, and I'm just going to add it to the bottom part of my center. So I'm just dotting this section just to add some shadow to it. And you could continue building up your sunflower petals by adding more and more of this yellow layers to it, and even the orange layers as well, because right now we only did one layer of the orange, so it's looking a bit light right now and it's almost blending into the background. So if you have the extra time, I would also go back into this orange and create an extra layer, and then go back into the yellow on top of it, and kind of just like keep building up these layers. So I'm going to continue going into the other flowers with my yellow. Even though I can't see what you guys are creating, I feel that you're doing a really amazing job right now. So kudos to you for taking this time out of your week to just do something for yourself and do something creative.
As my teacher said, a little pat on the back, a little self pat on the back.
Yes.
Well, good job, guys.
And I decided to do 2 sunflowers at the same time just because the yellow paint is not going to dry that quick, so I could actually do the brown center and spread it into these petals and knock out 2 sunflowers at the same time, because why not? If your yellow is still translucent, then you could just mix it a little bit with the white, and that way it'll be much thicker. Alex, should we do another fun fact? I can't wait.
Yes. Yes, we can. Ooh, this is an interesting one.
Are you gonna ask us, or are you just gonna tell us?
It's going to be a little bit of both. It's a little trivia with, fun fact presented first as well.
Okay.
So,
dig it.
a city in Ukraine actually has what is the deepest metro station in the world. What's the depth of it?
What's the depth? Do we know which city?
We're going in either meters or feet are acceptable. Only 2 answers. For those on the metric system.
Oh my god.
Do you have an initial guess?
I'm scared to even like say something. I'm gonna say 8,000 feet.
Wow. Okay. Let's just reel it in. We're not going to the other depth of the
other.
the other side of the earth here. Okay, let's just reel it in here. Okay, folks.
You
so
know,
not,
you don't have to
not
shame me here.
quite 8,000. That's a good opening.
That's a
guess.
good.
Let's go colder. It's a cold guess.
Is it under 1,000?
Now you're getting warmer.
So is it under or
Yes, that's why
under
you're
1,000?
getting warmer. I'm not sure you've played this game before.
I want to say 675.
You would be incorrect.
Wow.
Are you guessing in feet or meters?
Feet.
Okay. You'd be slightly less incorrect then, but like you're still incorrect. Can I tell you?
You can.
I can let the suspense build for a little bit more.
So hold on. So the 675, was that over or under?
It's still over.
It's over?
I think you're overestimating how deep like
a
a certain thing can go.
Yeah. Is it 300? 24.
It's the closest one yet. Much warmer. 346 feet.
Wow. Well, my 8,000 was a great guess.
It was definitely a great starter.
And that's the deepest train station in the world.
It is. I mean, that's very, very deep.
Yeah.
Boom. Dropping knowledge.
We're gonna have to edit out my first guess. So guys, I'm just going in here and I'm adding another layer of the yellow petals. So I'm doing 2 flowers at a time or so, maybe even 3, because why not? Because I'm doing really thick paint right now, so it's gonna take a hot second to dry. So I could even do 3 or even 4 at a time. Who knows? We'll experiment a bit. So this way it just looks less translucent. And then I'm going back in here with the brown and adding the centers here. And then I'm gonna add this brownish yellow. Some lines coming from the center into these petals, just to give us some shadows. And then you could go back in here and just add more paint to your center to define it a bit more. And then you could go back in with the blue and just dot out the bottom of these centers just to give it some depth. So it's slowly but surely coming together. So we are going to continue doing, so I have 4 more sunflowers, and I could actually knock them out all at once. Let's do this. All right, so this is pretty thick paint here, so you can kind of see the texture that I'm building with this paint. So definitely don't be afraid to take a lot of paint up with your brush and just put it on your canvas. So this painting takes a little bit of patience, but it's all going to come together in the end. And just the more flowers you keep on adding around your wreath, the better it's going to look in the end. So I sort of finished my petals. So now I'm moving on to the centers. And this repetition is kind of very therapeutic, at least for me. And it allows you to practice and just get better and better with each flower. So for some of these, the centers are not going to be perfectly in the middle. They're going to be kind of higher up. So that way the petals on the top appear shorter, and that way it gives the flower some depth. So I'm adding just a few strokes from the center and into my petals. And if I added too much here of the brown, I could always just remove it by just going over it with more of the yellow. Alex, you didn't tell me my canvas is like totally crooked.
I assumed it was your creative spirit running wild.
So I don't even need to wash my brush. I'm just gonna go right into this blue and just add a few dots here and there to the centers. And I'm placing it more towards the bottom and the left side of these. And just dotting it out. And if you added too much blue, you could always just cover it up with the brown. So just keep going kind of back and forth and adding, taking away colors and seeing what you could come up with. So we are getting to the part that's really gonna bring this even more together. You ready? We're gonna do the green.
Yep, let's do it.
So we're gonna cover up the white outline of the wreath, ideally. So I'm gonna add, I'm actually gonna mix green. So I'm gonna use the blue and the lighter yellow. But feel free to experiment and use the deep yellow and see what type of green it gets. I can't actually remember off the top of my head, but it might be stunning and worth a shot to mix it together. I'm just gonna go here and I'm gonna start adding some leaves. So the leaves are gonna be very similar to the shapes of the petals. So they're gonna be kind of thicker at the bottom and then thin out at the top. And they're gonna be going through some of these flowers. And you could use the green to connect some of these flowers together. So the ones that are kind of off to the side and not right on the circle, you could use the green and just connect them through these lines. And also with the wreath, the green is kind of just overlapping and going in and out of these flowers, just like weaving through. So you could triple up on some of these lines. So for example, I have one line going through here, but I could have another one right next to it.
It looks so good.
And if you guys have the 00 brush, which I gave out to my subscribers a few months ago, you're more than welcome to use it here for this step because this is the part where your lines are pretty thin. Yeah. So you could weave in some of these lines and then you could branch out into some of the leaves. And feel free to play around with the shapes of your leaves. They could be totally different than mine. But you want to make sure that you're covering up this white. So I want to make sure that I'm connecting some of these flowers together. And you could even add some green in between these sunflowers and behind some of these petals. You could change up the shape of these. So some of them could be more like branches, not even leaves. And you could also make these go in different directions if you want. So some of these are almost like branches. So they don't have to be these leaf shapes necessarily. So I did almost forget, guys, to show you next month's painting, which is our May box.
OMG.
Alex, thank you for reminding me.
Got your back, Jack.
So this one was our April box, and we're obviously painting it on the first Tuesday of April, but we did just launch our May box, and I'm super excited to show you guys. So I'm gonna take a quick break and show you. It's been behind me all this time. So this is going to be our May box. So this one is super fun. It's the first time that we're doing more of an abstract painting, which I don't think we've done before, but this one focuses more on the colors and just the emotion and the feeling. So you don't need to worry about getting like the shape of the buildings perfectly right. So that's why it's super fun. And we actually are using a palette knife to create this and all this crazy texture on here. So this I did not announce yet, but I'm planning to. So you guys are going to be the first to know. So if you are a return customer or a monthly subscriber, you actually get this cool little palette knife, which is a stainless steel knife. You get it for free in your box, so you could create this beautiful painting. So super excited about that, and I'll give you guys more information on my Facebook and Instagram page. But we do love to reward our monthly subscribers.
Pays to be in the inner circle, you know.
It does. So you could go in here and you could add more of these kind of like crazy and random shaped flowers. So for example, I could go in here and I could add maybe some more dots using white. So this is just a cluster of dots. And then I could connect them using the green stem. So I'm gonna do just a couple of these, and some of these branches, I could actually add some of these colorful dots on them. It's almost like grapes. So you could just make these just hang down. And you could also make them in blue, you could use yellow, so definitely vary up the color if you want. But just as you could see, the fuller it's getting, the better it looks. And you could do the same thing with the blue color. So I'm going in here with the white, and then I could add a stem using the green. You could just add some stems in between. And just make sure that if you have some of these random flowers, they're still connected to the wreath somehow. So you definitely use the green just to connect them. So it could just be one line, it could be a few thin lines, totally up to you. And then you could just continue adding more and more of these flowers and leaves and different textures. Definitely have fun with it. And you could continue working on it for like, I don't even know how long. But there's a lot that you could keep adding to it. So Alex, I think we have a last step.
Sign them.
Which is to sign your name at the bottom.
Sign them.
So just make sure that you sign your name at the bottom. This is your painting, and your signature is a part of the artwork. And please don't forget to share what you created on social, on Facebook, on Instagram, and tag us using hashtag CreativelyBox or just at CreativelyBox. And if you are part of the picture, you get extra bonus points. So we would love to see your work plus you in the shot. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. Because we're going to post the next event and all the updates about the fundraiser. And if you guys have another few minutes, definitely consider giving to this fundraiser to Save the Children Ukrainian Crisis Relief. We've already raised a lot of money, so I'm super thankful for you guys. And we'll continue raising more this next week. So thank you guys so much for joining and have a lovely week.
Thank you, everyone.